Hey everyone, Dave here. Welcome to a new Raid Shadow Legends video. What I want to talk to you about today is how to win tournaments inside Raid. And that's a very big topic because there are multiple strategies. It might appear as if it's straightforward, like you get the most point out of your group and you win your tournament, but it's not always as straightforward as this. So I'm opening just the tournaments tab to see what we have here. We had like Classic Arena Takedown Tournament, Dragon Tournament, Champ Training, and Soul Chase is a new one. That's why we're holding Soul Chases. So probably we'll open them all in a video soon. And Ice Golem Tournament. Okay. So first point, like first couple of points that I want to explain to you is that why do you want or why it's important for you to win tournament. And I'll show you now because winning first or second in tournament is the only way inside the game to get relentless gear. Relentless gear, you'll see that I've put my relentless gear on some of my best champs. Why is relentless gear so powerful? It's because that 4 artifacts, 18% chance to get an extra turn. So that combined with counter attack accessories or other things can really decrease the cooldown. Because for example, like Gala is one of the best champs for a relentless set. She has multiple hits. She can grant herself an extra turn, and with relentless, she can attack multiple times in a row. Great for Fire Knight, great for eliminating the cooldown. Because if you have a couple of relentless procs, that means that the cooldown of a 3 cooldown skill just was just done in a single turn. So relentless is one of the most powerful sets inside the game, and you can only obtain it from winning the first or the second places in tournaments. Okay, depending on how hard the tournament is, this can be 6-star Lego pieces or 6-star epic pieces or 5-star epic pieces. So yeah, it depends on just like the level of gear you'll get, but relentless is great. As your account is growing and becoming more and more into in-game, the players you're going to be matched with is going to be harder and tougher because everyone, like if we look at if someone is serious enough about the game that they got to level 100 or 90 or whatever your level is, all of these are serious players spending a lot of time and effort and maybe money into the game. While on lower level accounts, probably you've seen the video about my new Mystery Shards account and how it was easier for me to win a champ training tournament on account on a low level. Basically, lower level accounts, you'll get casual players, you'll get players like that are not playing that much, it's not spending much time into the game. So it's important for you as your account is growing, if you're a serious player, to win your relentless gear early on. Now I barely win any, except of course if I'm holding a lot of resources and I just fancy that I'm farming Fire Knight anyways and my group doesn't look crazy, so let's just do some more farming, throw thousands of energy into it and win that group. So that's how it goes. Okay, so this is the first thing I wanted to tell you is that why you want to win the tournaments to get the relentless set. Second, very important piece about tournaments that you should take care of is when your tournament group ends. So, for example, let's check that Ice Golem tournament that's ending. So, this is ending like in 2 days and 13 hours. So, if I check the timing there, that will probably end just early morning my time. That means that if I want to win this Ice Golem tournament, it means that I won't be awake for the last few hours to farm and pass the second guy if he's like basically competing with me over the top. Because it's non-grind stop for some of these tournaments. Especially with one of the tactics that we talk about is the snipe tactic. If you want to stay just like hovering in, I don't know, third to fifth place, and then in the last minute just snipe the tournament from whoever unsuspecting top 2 players or whatever, that needs you to be awake to do it. And it's more easier than, it's easier in like different type of tournaments, which what I will explain. So you have basically the dungeon tournaments, which is Spider Dragon and so, and classic arena tournaments or 3v3 tournaments. 3v3 tournaments are good ones to win because most players don't like 3v3. And between classic arena and 3v3, you should have some refills saved or you'll spend gems to win these tournaments. But if you want to win one of these, you're just getting as many points as you can early on. There is no sniping there. Let me okay. Let me go to the two major tactics that can work in one tournament and might not work in another, so we can talk about them. So the first tactic is scare. So how does scare work? Is that let's say that you have it's a summon rush tournament, and you have loads of say like shards saved, or you're willing to spend some money to win this tournament, whether this way or that way. You open, let's say, two-thirds of your shards as soon as the tournament begins, and you get like, I don't know, 2 or 3K thousand points out of the gate. So people inside with you in the same group might think this is a whale, we're not competing with him. Same, for example, for champ training. If it's a champ training tournament and you have loads of brews and chicken saved, just go like into the tavern and pump 5K points out of the gate as soon as the tournament starts. That will scare people with you. And it might or might not, but usually that might scare most players in your group to not even try to win the group there. So you scare them off and then you casually keep pumping points. Don't spend all of your resources in that first push. And by the time someone like they realize that you're slowing down, you might not have the same amount of resources. This gap has increased to an amount that it's very difficult for someone else to come after you and win the tournament. So that's the scare tactic. Or if it's a dungeon tournament, you just choose a level that you can farm quickly in a minute and a half maximum, and then just pump all energy into it. Leave it running if you have like blue stacks or if you have multi battles set up. Leave it running all night on your PC. So when they see that in the first day, you got multiple thousand points from just like farming all night there in the dungeon, that also scares them off. That will deter people from competing against you in the same group. So that's the scare tactic. The snipe tactic, which is the second one, which I talked about a bit earlier, it works best only in champ training and like shard related events, champ chase or summon rush. Because that's the thing is, if we're talking about dungeon tournaments, you won't be able to snipe these because every dungeon run will take you a minute, let's say, except if it's spider and you're doing it in 10 seconds, then maybe there is a snipe possibility in spider. So if you have like, let's say, depending on your level in the game, like let's say if you have 2000 points gap inside inside between you and the first couple of players, those 2000 points, the average, let's say that the average you'll get from a level 20 or 25 run, 20 points. So you need 50 runs to get that 1000 points. You won't be able to do this in a few minutes. So for dungeon and arena tournaments, it's all in from the start. Push hard from the first minute the tournament starts, and hope that you're going to scare the rest of players from chasing you beyond that. If you manage to get the most points early on and just farm all night in the first day or whatever, leave it on auto, then that's your strategy there. The snipe and sacred shard, in shard related tournaments or champ training, because these you can pump thousands of points at the end of the tournament using shards or brews and chickens. So if you manage to do this, you can just snipe them. Why the snipe strategy is a good thing or recommended thing there is that if you notice that the players ahead of you, they are increasing in points, but they are not wailing out. It's not like they're throwing 10K points every hour into the tournament or whatever. That means that they just want to be first, but they don't have endless resources or they don't have credit cards that they are just swiping into the game and gaining more resources. So don't scare them into pushing hard. Just keep them at an acceptable level for you and just climb enough. How fast you can pump resources there, like I said, if we're talking about shards or chickens and brews, you can pump thousands of points, but you know how much resources you have. Stay within what I call a sniping range. The ranges that you can easily gain in a few minutes, just in the last few minutes. Of course, assuming the first point that I said that you should be awake when the tournament is ending to do that last minute snipe. If not, it will be very difficult for you to do that unless you set up an alarm and don't spoil your day just to win the tournament. But, anyways, um, so like I said, stay within sniping. I have actually a good example here. Let me show it to you. So this is from the mystery shard account that I shared with you in a previous video. And if you notice here, so this is like one day before the tournament ends, and I'm hovering at the second place here. Actually, I was even the third, but beyond those two guys, but I gained a couple of 100 points. So I remained hovering here, making sure that, like, for example, on this account, I don't have like my resources are very limited. I just had, that's a new account and it's a mystery shard FTP, so I have few brews and limited refills of energy. So my sniping range here, or what I estimated, was like less than 1000 points, because I can farm, like, let's say 500 points in an hour and then just use the brews that I'm saving to snipe at last minute. So I kept hovering in that range, not to scare this first place player into pushing too hard and getting out of my range. So he thought that, yeah, maybe this is the end of my efforts or whatever, or I don't have any resources. And if you notice here, like, that's 20 hours in. If you notice here, like 12 hours in, so that's after 8 hours, he only gained 150 points because I wasn't pushing too hard. I was staying less than him. So probably what he was saying, he was wishing that I'm out of resourcing and just staying on top of me, hoping that I went to sleep or finished all of my resources. So that's 12 hours in. 2 hours in, that's when I woke up at the day of, like, the last day of the tournament. And if you notice here, so when I went to bed, when it was 12 hours, we only had like 300 points difference, and that's where I left it. So this was his last push, because I'm guessing he might be in Europe because I'm in the US, so he might have slipped or whatever, but this was his last push. So he increased that gap to 1400 points, more or less, thinking that might get him in a safe range from me. So if you're talking specifically about champ training tournaments, if you want to do a snipe strategy and snipe them last minute, make sure that you're using your energy, because even if your brutal campaign farmer can do it in 7 seconds, that's still a limited amount of points that you can gain per minute. So if you want, like, I don't know, because you have to keep changing food and doing like 5 runs, changing food, or even clicking on replay manually. So do not use your champs to feed into each other to gain points through the time of the tournament, which is around 5 days for champ training tournaments. Keep all of your brews and your chickens for that last minute snipe, because you can get into the tavern and just gain that amount of points much faster than you can farm campaign. So yeah. So when I woke up last day, I found that 1600 points. I still had 2 hours. So there is two things you want to do if you want to snipe a tournament. You start farming the dungeon if it's a dungeon, but yeah, we said that it won't work in dungeon. So I start farming campaign and monitoring the gap. Is he pumping more points, or is he not even in the game at this time? So my plan was, I'll start pumping points, just farming campaign, and I'll check if his points are increasing. If you notice here, 10 minutes before the tournament ends, I've just like got ahead of him by 90 points, and his points didn't increase, so probably he wasn't playing at this time. So, and that's just using the brews. So I covered that gap with campaign runs, and then I used my brews, and I didn't have any chicken, so it was just brews for me. So it was just brews for me, and then that's how we ended it, and that's how you snipe a tournament. So if we go back to the game, let me just wrap up what I'm saying. Best strategy for dungeon or arena tournaments is to pump as many points as you can early on, in the hope that you scare the rest of your group of chasing you. You're showing them that you're serious, you're showing them that you have the resources. Don't spend, of course, that can be a gamble, because if you throw all of your resources in the first day and someone decide to accept the challenge, you don't have any resources to push further. But yeah, if let's say if you want to go for a scare tactic, pump, I would say, half of your resources in those first couple of hours, scares them off, shows them you're serious. If someone is still willing to fight you over it, just do the regular with the daily energy or whatever and see if you can still compete with them or not. If you have a fighting chance, then just wait with the second half to do it in the last couple of hours or the last few minutes if it's shards or champ training. If you're waiting for the snipe, be casual, be subtle about it, just keep gaining points. If the fourth or the fifth place is in within sniping range, within the amount of points that you can just grab in those last few minutes, don't get to top three. Usually, the players fighting over the tournament look at the top three. They might look at the top five. They will check, because people will check if someone is trying to snipe the tournament from them. So just try to fly under the radar there. Don't get too many points suddenly. Just keep hovering within sniping range as far down as you can, even if it's one of those, I don't know, average groups with nobody pushing so hard. If you can even stay in the 10th place, and this is your sniping range, just do it. Keep flying under the radar. Last few minutes, open your shards, use your chickens and brews, jump all the way up. And by the time they realize that you're gaining so many points so fast, they won't have time to try and do the same, even if they have the resources, and you'll win the tournaments. Last advice I have for you, that I said in the beginning: try to win your tournaments early on. It gets harder and harder when your account level goes up. When you get to level 100, all serious players, it's much more difficult to win tournaments. So, yeah, that was about winning tournaments and how to do it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.